So now we're going to go through the project cost breakdown. And the project cost breakdown, I'm going to show you exactly how we make a profit. Before I do that, I'm going to walk you through it step by step. So let's start with step one. Now in step one, I want to share with you the process, just so you understand this stuff and you're educated about it. And so step one is the consultant basically has a client come to him and say, I want this villa built. The consultant then creates the drawings, and then he invites contractors to bid. So there's an invitation to bid. We receive the invitation from the consultant, we prepare our bid, and then we send it in. It's basically a process of collecting the documents that they send, and then submitting the bid by the due date. They usually have a due date. You submit your bid by this due date, then the project is closed for tendering and submitting bids. And then the bid opens and the contractor is selected. So basically through that process, they select a contractor. Now again, having a relationship with the consultant, them sitting on our board, definitely increases the chances of us getting that bid accepted. The contractor gives a strong recommendation to the client that these are great people to work with, and he supports them fully. And the client generally says, I trust you, Mr. Consultant. Take it over and do what you got to do. Then the client, the contractor, and the consultant, all three of us, sit down and we sign an agreement. And at that point of signing the agreement, we basically discuss any additional things that we want. Like we mentioned in our internal and external risk factors, we then speak to the client directly and we say, if you're going to make any changes, this is what it's going to cost you. If you're going to do this, if you're going to do that. And we have a good discussion with them to basically go over some of these fine points. And then the project requires the labor. So before Dubai municipality is going to give you the okay, they want to know that you have the labor on hand. So at that point, we source the labor, we bring them in, we cover our 3-month cost like I just explained, and then we get the building permit from the Dubai municipality. They come to the site, they do the demarcation, and they give us the certificate. Now we have the certificate, it's been demarked, we've got the building approvals and permits, we are ready to go. Now at this point, we go into mobilization, and we go into phase one of the construction. Like we explained in the earlier video that mobilization is having your fenced in, boundary wall fenced into the property. The excavation works begin, the compacting begins. We have our site office with our generator, power supply, and our water tank. And it basically goes into phase one of construction, which takes about 20 days worth of work, and usually about another 10 days for submitting the bill, getting the approval, and things like that. So we budget about 1 month, and it goes into phase one. Now let's go to step two. So now in step two, we break this down. Now, this is on, just to quickly adjust some of this, this is on a 1 million villa, 1 million dirham villa. So I'm going to break it down for you. The time duration in order to do this is around 8 months. In the construction phases that we explained in the earlier part, there's 5 phases which take about 7 months of time. We've put a 1 month time frame in there as a buffer for receiving payments, certain things like that, approvals, any of these just additional things that will create any kind of delay. So we've budgeted 1 month as a delay. So generally, with 5 laborers, it takes them 12 months to do this same work. And then it would work out to basically what it works out to here. But because we run a very efficient and tight ship, we're able to do this stuff in a faster time frame. We don't compromise on quality at all. But the breakdown is basically the revenue generated from the project is 1 million. The cost of this project is 700,000. That's our cost on the project to complete those 5 phases. Then the profit generated is 300,000. Now out of this profit, 200K is our cash. We have it on hand, it's paid, it's cash. The 100K is retention. That retention, if the project takes 8 months, project is complete after 8 months, for 1 year, the retention is kept by the consultant. After 1 year, the retention is released to us. So it takes about 1.8 years, and the 300K fully profit is realized. Now I'm going to walk you through step 3, and this is one of the most important parts of this video. So pay attention, because here's where the construction compounding kicks in. So now we're going to walk you through the project breakdown and the compounding of the construction. And this is where you will realize how much profits are generated by the system that we've put together and why we're so confident we can achieve it. So I'm going to give you a quick walkthrough. Let's start from the very top, okay? 5 laborers. These are 5 laborers working on one project over a duration of 8 months. And the profit that's generated is $300,000. Now our cost, our fixed cost for these 5 laborers are $310,000. So we actually lose $10,000. In our first project, we actually lose $10,000. So this is 8 months worth of work where we did not make a penny. But something magical happens when you start to compound the total investment and you have some efficiencies in your model and you're doing things in a lot more of an efficient way. And so our $310,000 cost is fixed, and this cost is for 2 years. So let's go to phase 2. Step 2 is 5 laborers, the exact same 5 laborers, but now over a 2-year period, which is once every 8 months, they're doing 3 projects. Our profit is $900,000. Minus our $310,000 cost is $590,000 net profit. Now this is after 2 years with just 5 laborers. Okay, let's go to step 3. In step 3, we double the labor. Okay, now there is 10 laborers. 2 years again, but this time 6 projects. 1.8 million in profit minus our $620,000 cost gives us $1,180,000 profit, net profit. Let's double it again. We're at 20 laborers now. 2 years, 12 projects, 3.6 million in profit minus our 1.24 million in cost, 2.360 million in profit. And we're doing this with 20 laborers. Now let's double it again. I have 40 laborers here. 2 years, 24 projects, 7.2 million minus our 2.48 million cost, 4.720 million profit. Let's double it again. We have now 80 laborers. They're doing 48 projects. 14.4 million is our profit minus 4.960 our cost. We're making 9.44 million. Now, let's double it again. We have 160 laborers, 2 years, 96 projects, 28.8 million. Minus our 9.92 in cost, we're making 18.88 million in profit. Now, let's double it again. Okay? 320 laborers, 192 projects in 2 years, 57.6 million minus 19.84 million our cost gives us a net of 37.76 million. Okay, this is profit, net profit. And I can compound this over and over, but as a company, and to be realistic in our approach, we need to make sure that we have a very straightforward plan that can show you what amount of projects that we can do and how we can fulfill and execute on this. So, one more compounding. 640 laborers, 2 years, 384 projects in 2 years. Brings us to 115.2 million. This also brings us to 39.68 million of our cost. So when that's minused, we have 75.52 million in profit. Now, I can double this again to 1,280 laborers, which would be 720, 30 projects. We would do 230 million in revenue. It would be around 80 million in our cost, and we would make about 150 million in profit. But, to be quite frank and honest with you, it takes time, effort, logistics, know-how, expertise, relationships, all these different things in order to complete 700, close to 800 projects. So, we won't be able to do that in 2 years. Being very straightforward with you. That's not something we'll be able to do in 2 years. And to attempt to do that without having proper systems and processes at this scale could be a very destructive thing. And so we don't want to focus on overextending ourselves or overcommitting on delivering something that we are not comfortable with delivering. So we keep it very basic. 640 laborers, 2 years, 384 projects, And after our 115.2 million minus 39.68 million cost, we make a 75.52 million healthy profit in 2 years. Now, the beautiful thing about having a labor force that big, that many projects on the go, is that you have the ability to add efficiencies into your business model. And when you understand your cost structure, you understand your fixed expenses, you understand where you can add the efficiencies by making a further investment into your infrastructure, then you're able to generate lower costs, so you're able to decrease costs, and you're able to increase profit. So we're going to show you some of the efficiencies. One of the efficiencies is that we have a budget of 5 laborers per project. We want to make sure we get this done in 8 months. Generally, with good systems and processes, good timing, good efficiency, you can do it in 7 months. We've put a 1-month buffer. Now, in order to increase our ability to meet our deadlines in terms of time frame, we are adding a 20% labor increase. The 20% labor increase would work out to an extra 128 laborers, which over 2 years would bring us a cost of $7.936 million. So we're going to take this $75.52 million that we made in profit, and we're going to minus the $7.93 million of 20% extra labor, which will give us a $67.59 million profit. Now this ensures that that profit is consistent. And it does so because we've increased the labor by another 20%. Now another thing is that one of the biggest expenses when it comes to projects like this, a contracting company can take on as many projects as it can handle. And if it has a solid sourcing process to bring in projects, the only challenge becomes your labor and your fixed overhead on that labor. And the 2 fixed overheads on that labor is labor salary, which you have to pay. And the second fixed overhead on top of that labor is your accommodation. They have to have somewhere to stay. And the company has to provide that. And here in Dubai, there's a mandate that they can't just stay anywhere they want. They have to stay in designated labor camps. This is a government mandate. And so our accommodation here for 768 laborers times, on average, 500 dirhams per laborer equals $384,000 per month. Now, generally the cost is slightly less. We have explained we have a community approach to what we do. We want to give back to our laborers. And so we've budgeted instead of 400, which would be the average that you would pay for accommodation for 1 month for per labor, we budgeted 500. Because that extra 100 provides a little bit more care in toiletries and hygiene, in different things that they can use, maybe a phone card or something like that, that would give them the ability to speak to their family more often. Just a small supplemental increase in the money that we spend on our labor has a massive uptick in productivity when that labor works for you. So most companies don't go above and beyond to make these changes or to integrate additional value to their employees. We do. We don't want to decrease the value or to pinch the pennies and decrease our productivity over time. And so at $384,000 per month for all of our laborers combined works out to $4.6 million annually. Okay? Now what we're going to do is in year 1, we're going to make a 10 million dirham investment. This investment is in a labor camp. This labor camp is our asset. It's a company asset. And this is a massive investment, but I'm going to show you how it saves us an enormous amount of money. So this labor camp, the cost will be 10 million. The capacity will be 1,500 people. 375 rooms at 4 laborers per room. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our 67.5 million minus 10 million from it, which is our cost of our labor camp, and it gives us a net of 57.59 million. Now, that labor camp has a capacity of 1,500 people. And so we only have 768 laborers, including all of our laborers combined. And so 768 laborers minus 1,500, which is our capacity, gives us 732 extra space, extra spots for our labor. Now let's assume, we're going to be very conservative here. I don't want to over-promise and under-deliver. I would love to under-promise and over-deliver and do that consistently year on year. And so if we have 732 extra spaces, and we look at only 50% occupancy of those spaces, which is 366 extra spaces, and they're all rented. And they're rented to bigger contracting companies like ours. They're rented to government companies. They're rented to large contractors who are working on high-rise towers or master developments, and they have hundreds and hundreds, possibly thousands of employees. They're rented to these companies. There's a shortage technically of labor camps. There's no shortage of the need for laborers to be there. And so in the next 2 years, the Dubai government is investing billions and billions of dollars in creating the Expo 2020 master site, connecting metro railway to that master site. It's launching the new airport, the Al Maktoum Airport, and there's a lot of infrastructure spending. And this infrastructure is all in construction. It's in development. And that development needs laborers. And so there's a sudden influx in 2018, 2019, 2020 of a huge amount of labor. We're talking tens of thousands of laborers coming in order to meet the deadlines that the Dubai government has set for their infrastructure projects. And so, again, this could be much more, but we're being very conservative here. 366 average rent of 400 dirhams per spot would bring us around 366 times 400, 146,000 per month in extra income. This is coming from our asset, our labor camp. Now, if you times that by 12, it's 1.75 million. So in our year one, we had to pay 4.6 million in our cost for our accommodation for our laborers. But in year two, something magical happens. We've invested 10 million now to set up our labor camp. But we're now earning a 1.75 million profit from the extra space inside that labor camp. And we're also saving, as a company, 4.6 million. We're saving 4.6 million. So 57.59 plus 1.75 works out to 59.34 million. Now we're going to add another 4.5 because our first year cost was 4.6 million. It's going to cost about 100,000 in order for maintenance and upkeep of that labor camp. And so we're going to minus 100,000 from that 4.6, and that'll leave us 4.5 million. And when you add that to the original net figure we had over here of 59.34, it brings us a total net of 63.84 million. 63.84 million. I'm going to do the math for you really quickly again. Just a recap. We have 768 laborers. Over 2 years, they're working on 384 projects. Okay? 115 million is our money in. 39.68 million is our cost. 75.52 million minus our labor camp investment, minus the cost of this extra labor that we're bringing in, and creating an asset for us because now we're saving 4.6 million every single year. Now, if over 10 years you calculate this, this is 40.6 million that we would have had to spend on our accommodation. This is a fixed expense. You can't bypass this. They need a place to stay. And so, by making that 10 million investment at the end of year one, we are saving in 10 years 40.6 million. In 20 years, we are saving over 80 million. Over 80 million in savings. Not to mention our 1.75 million in cash in, and this could potentially be 3 million and above easily by having full occupancy in our labor camp. But we're going to keep some space because this is 2 years. We're going to take on more projects after year 3. So when we go into year 3 and 4, we're increasing our ability to execute projects. We have better systems and processes in place. We've done a whole lot of work. We have a mountain of completion certificates. We have great relationships with our consultants. And now we scale our consultant force, and we're able to do more and more projects. And we start to generate more and more profit. So we may need some space for extra labor that we're going to bring in to be able to handle more projects. But after 2 years, we've brought in 63.84 million. Now I'm going to explain to you how this profit is broken down and what the expansion plan is with some of this profit and what our token buyback program is all about. And the token buyback program, we spend some money that's generated from this cash flow into purchasing tokens on the market and from our customers and community who would like to sell these tokens and are short-term investors. And they want some liquidity. We would provide them that liquidity. We would buy these tokens from this cash flow, and we would burn the tokens. And when we burn the tokens, that means the supply is less. When the supply is less, but the demand is the same, if not increased, the value goes up of the remaining supply that is there. And so now I'm going to explain to you the tokenomics and the expansion plan.